Imagine a classroom where every scholar, regardless of their abilities or challenges, feels supported, valued, and capable of achieving their best. This is our goal when we're working with scholars who have special needs, learning differences, or IEPs. IEP is short for Individualized Education Program. An IEP is a legal document developed for each public school child in the US who needs special education. It outlines the specific goals, services, accommodations, and supports required to meet the individual needs of the scholar. Special needs can encompass a wide range of challenges, including learning disabilities or differences, physical disabilities, emotional or behavioral disorders, and developmental delays. It's really important not to stereotype a scholar with an IEP. When you've met one scholar with an IEP, you've met one scholar with an IEP. Some of the reasons why a scholar may have an IEP are visible and others may not be. There are instances where scholars also outgrow their IEP. For instance, they may have had a developmental delay with their speech. That's no longer the case by the time they're in middle school. In order to receive an IEP, a scholar has to go through a rigorous evaluation process that can be prompted by the parent or school only with the consent of the parent or guardian. Back in the day, scholars who had IEPs were grouped into special schools and pulled from mainstream classrooms. Having an IEP came with a lot of emotional baggage and carried a stigma that was hard to shake off. The IEP often meant diminished academic and life prospects too. Today, that's no longer the status quo. Scholars are not immediately put into classes with other scholars who have IEPs. In fact, it's common to see them in a mainstream classroom with the lead educator having access to their evaluation and accommodations. But there are parents who are unfamiliar with the concept of an IEP or fear the outdated stigma and implications it can have for their child. So they opt out of an evaluation when a school or a professional recommends it. Without parental consent, a school cannot formally label a child as having a special need and create an IEP for them. This means over the course of your time as an educator, you may have scholars that you work with that might need accommodations or should have an IEP that do not have one. This is why mastering skills like differentiation are so important. Unfortunately, there are special accommodations that are made available to help scholars on an IEP be more successful in school that are not granted without a formal evaluation. When a parent doesn't consent to an evaluation for a scholar that might have testing anxiety, for example, the school and the educator cannot legally give them more time on a standardized test, which is an accommodation that would be available to them if they were evaluated. While the historical cons are real, and some of them may even linger, failing to have an evaluation means undiagnosed challenges could persist and impact the scholar's ability to achieve academically. I can't tell you how many times I've met an adult who confided in me that they were dyslexic. They didn't find out about it until they were in high school or college. For years, their loved ones thought they were just stupid. Then it was diagnosed, they worked with a specialist, and they took off academically. The reality is that all of us have different learning preferences, and I would love to see a day when every scholar, regardless of their ability, has an individualized education program, because we know personalizing education improves academic outcomes. Understanding and effectively working with IEPs ensures that scholars with special needs receive the tailored support they require. This not only helps them achieve academic success, but also fosters their social and emotional development. This is an important note about IEPs. If you're not the lead educator in the classroom, for example, if you're student teaching, tutoring, or just assisting, you most likely will not have access to a scholar's IEP. IEPs are really sensitive documents. Any leak or document getting in the wrong person's hands can have negative consequences for a scholar. As a result, you may never receive the actual IEP. So how do you actually work with scholars with special needs and IEPs in the classroom? The process still begins with understanding each scholar's IEP. Without direct access, you'll need to collaborate closely with the lead teacher and special education staff to become familiar with the goals, accommodations, and modifications outlined in the IEP. This information should give you an idea of how to adjust your teaching methods, provide additional time for assignments, request assistive technology, or create specific seating arrangements. Once you understand the IEP, implement the necessary accommodations and modifications during your interactions with the scholar. This can involve breaking down instruction into smaller, manageable steps, providing visual aids, or using alternative assessment methods. Communication and collaboration with the lead teacher and special education staff, when possible, are crucial to ensure consistency and effectiveness in supporting the scholar. Let's see what this could look like in the classroom. Suppose you're working with a scholar who has a learning disability, and their IEP specifies the need for visual aids and step-by-step instructions. During a math lesson, you might use visual representations like charts or diagrams to explain concepts. Additionally, break down complex problems into smaller, sequential steps, providing guidance at each stage. This approach helps the scholar grasp the material more effectively and reduces the feelings of overwhelm. Separately, let's imagine you're working with a scholar with an emotional need who requires a quiet and structured environment to focus. Their IEP includes accommodations like a designated quiet space. Prior to the start of the class, you would ensure the quiet space is available. During class activities, you would connect with the scholar to ensure they know their quiet space is available when they need it. By creating a supportive and predictable environment, you help the scholar stay engaged and reduce anxiety. As you begin working with scholars with special needs and IEPs, you will see that the IEP just means understanding their unique challenges, implementing tailored accommodations, and collaborating with the educational team. You'll also begin to see the unique strengths and talents that scholars with IEPs have that are no different than any of the scholars you might work with as an educator.